if you can come at life from the idea that everyone in your life is serving a purpose, and you are also serving a purpose in everyone else's life, like it's a two-way street, right? It's not just everyone for you. Then when those paths start to deviate, they're no longer running in parallel, right? They start to deviate and go into different directions. There is no room for betrayal. It just doesn't exist.
Right.
Because you've both got what you needed out of the relationship, so now you can move forward and move on.
Man, that happens so often to so many people, right? And because you use the word betrayal, and you know, people have that feeling and you hold on to it for so long, right? Like you hold on to that for so fucking long, and it just eats you alive, and you don't realize like it's only eating you. Hey everybody, I'm Eric Oberembt, and you're listening to Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. We talk about real shit, what's on our minds, and don't give a fuck if it makes you feel a little uncomfortable. So sit back, strap in, and get ready for some real shit. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. I'm your host, Eric Oberembt. Just an FYI, we just started this for the second time. We did about 20 minutes of a podcast, and I realized I wasn't fucking recording any of it. So that's what happened when the rookie runs the show and Lexi's not here. So Lexi, I miss you, and I'm sorry. Today is a special episode. I'm super excited. My friend, my coach, my mentor, my whatever the fuck you want to call him is here. Flew all the way in from Thailand, not just for me, but I'm going to pretend that it was just for me. I want to introduce Clay Moffat. Clay, thanks for being here.
It's kind of a lot for you, to be fair.
Again, what is a lot?
Being here. Like here specifically, it's definitely just for you, like in Houston.
Yeah. But what's a lot?
Like 50% of the trip.
Oh, for you coming.
Yeah.
Okay. But you didn't book a flight to come see me. Let's be fair.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I'm super appreciative that you're here. You did book a flight from Virginia to here, so you're absolutely correct. You win. Yes, you're right. You did. So I'm so glad you're here. This is weird, doing a podcast over again. I've never done this before, everybody.
This is the second podcast. This is podcast 2.
Podcast 2. Yeah. We can have really shitty sound and great video on one that we can release. And oh my God, I'm so fucking embarrassed about that. That's hilarious. But everybody that is watching and listening, thank you for tuning in. Today's going to be really special. Clay's here, and Clay has completely changed my life, and I want to make sure that he's introduced to other people in the world so that you can see, whether it's working with Clay or somebody like Clay, the things that you need to do to get outside of your comfort zone to be able to grow into the person that you're supposed to be. And that's something that we talk a lot about on this show, is figuring out how to become that person that you're supposed to be. Because something that I talk about a lot when I'm talking about the team method and all that kind of stuff is we weren't born to be pieces of shit. Oh, no. I don't believe. I believe that we were born to help other people. We were born to do the next right thing. We were born to do those things, but we grow up and due to influences and things that happen to us over the course of our lives, some of us go down different fucking paths.
Yes.
Right? And at some point in your life, if you have the self-awareness to realize that you're going down that path, you have a choice to make, right? We all have decisions to make every single day. And one of those decisions is, are we going to continue down that fucking shitty path, or are we going to go down a different path? And the course of us working together over the years is given me the opportunity to continue down and go down the right path so that I can impact more people, change more lives, and be part of, amazing things. So that being said, we're going to rehash this motherfucker again. This is fucking hilarious. But everybody does need to know a little bit about what you do, okay? Sure. And we went into it a little bit before, but I know you don't like being called a life coach, and I never call you one. Didn't somebody call you a wizard?
Oh, that's not somebody. They do.
They do?
It's actively.
Oh, okay.
In like most of my testimonials from the marketing sphere.
Gotcha.
Most of them say the Wizard of Oz because...
because of Oz. Australia. Oh, yeah. I never put that together.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Because he's from Australia, everybody. Yeah. If you can't tell by the accent. Okay, so tell everybody a little bit. We talked about it a lot already once, but I really like that term, performance hacking.
Yeah.
Maybe dig into that a little bit.
It's a pretty good term, man. I actually that actually spawned from a business venture I was getting into with two other guys, right? I was going to be the mind guy. We had another guy on business strategy and another guy on the body.
That wasn't the dildo guy that was like selling dildos or something like that, or
The dildo guy.
remember that you had some guy that was like selling fucking.
Oh no!
Okay.
He's a marketer. He's a copywriter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. He was selling rose quartz dildos.
Yeah.
Like woo chicks.
Yes.
And like, because they were getting rose quartz in their vajayjay, and
Got it.
yeah,
Yeah.
all the blessings.
I just thought that was hilarious. Yeah, that seemed like a brilliant fucking business model. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, it apparently did really, really well. So, got to do what you got to do, I
I
guess.
bet it did. But all right, so tell everybody a little bit what you do now, whether it's your coaching or your programs.
So, well, I mean, it's all the same thing, really, right? It just depends on the level of intensity that the person wants
Right.
with the acceleration. I mean, some people are quite happy to figure it out on their own. Just like, give me the course, give me the information, I'll do it. And then some people are like, you know what? I want to do this fast. I want to do it now. I want direct access. Mm-hmm. And that's it. But they're all really designed to do the same thing. So, the performance hacking thing came around because when I first started down this path, I ended up starting to work with a lot of athletes, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously, when you first start, you don't go and work with like the best professional athletes in the world, but I was working with athletes. And then after I had some pretty big successes because guys came to me that were on losing streaks, and then we did like one hypnosis session, and then they went on like a 23 knockout streak in a row, and then started to get a bit of inflation and took on a challenge that was something that they probably should have prepared more for, and then they lost, and so then they came back, and then that's also another thing, right? I find there's two approaches to this kind of work. So there's the approach where people are like, oh, I've got this problem, so I'm going to sort it out. Mm-hmm. And then there's the other approach. People are like, you know what, I come for a problem because I want to solve something, and then they're like, you know what, this just makes everything I do better. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to continue on the path and keep going up. And that's where the performance hacking came in. Because with the other approach, it's not really about hacking performance. It's about doing fixes and repairs. Mm-hmm. I don't really like that. Like, I'm okay with it, right? I'm happy to do it. I prefer to work with people that think in a similar, let's call it conceptualization, where it's like, okay, how do I make this better? Not because things are bad, not because like the fire's going to burn my house down, just I know I can do more.
Right.
So how do I do that?
Almost like a diet. Instead of doing a diet, changing your lifestyle.
Exactly. It's the same thing.
Right.
Right? Because the diet's to solve a problem.
Right.
Once the problem's gone, like my brother got diagnosed with cancer and then changed his diet, changed everything overnight. Once the cancer went away, his diet shifted back.
Right.
And he doesn't have the worst diet, but for example, like he stopped drinking.
Right.
And he stopped doing this and stopped doing this. And like each to their own. Like, I mean, he was doing it for a specific purpose. Mm-hmm. That purpose was solved, so I can revert back to the old way. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not the performance hacking model.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so the performance hacking model came out of like working with the fighters and working with like these professional athletes in the AFL. And
is the thought behind that what you changed must not have been what caused the issue to begin with, so you're safe now to go back to the way that you were? Do you think that's the...
No. It's more that like you could say safe, but it's more about the motivation, right? So the classic example is weight. Mm-hmm. Or money, actually. They're the two biggest ones, right? Mm-hmm. So I used to work with a lot of salespeople, like a lot of salespeople, right? I was teaching them persuasion stuff and then also like their mindset stuff, so they keep going. And so there are people that are heavily motivated by moving away from, and it's not a bad thing. It's just how they're motivated. But the problem is, like, they get this huge burst of income, like, oh, I'm good. Yeah. And then they don't work as hard, and income starts to go away and away and away and away, and then they get into like the danger, like, oh, and then they're quickly working and get all this money, and they fall down and down and down and down and down. So, by the way, if you've got people like that, that just means you need to motivate them by stuff you're going to take away. That's all it is. Like, if you don't do this, you're going to be fired. That's how you motivate those people.
Right.
Whereas the people that are like, I want more and I can do more, they're motivated by incentives. So like give them performance bonuses because then they're going to work towards things. And it's just how you got to work with people, right? But the motivation like really comes into it because what starts happening in a really natural way is you'll just get to this, let's say, comfort zone.
Right.
And you're in the comfort zone, and because you are moving away from this thing, you don't need to work because there's nothing you're moving toward. Like there's no bigger picture. There's no, let's say, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Right.
It's just like, I need to get out of the dungeon.
Is that the difference between people that are like intrinsically motivated?
Well, they're both intrinsically motivated.
Okay.
Right? It's just the direction of the motivation.
Okay.
Right? But so everyone's got intrinsic motivators. But when you have an intrinsic motivator that is bigger than you, you'll continue going. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, money is technically an extrinsic motivator, right? No, it's definitely an extrinsic motivator, not pretty much. It's 100% an extrinsic motivator because, like, it's outside. An intrinsic motivator, and this is going to be very morbid, but
yeah,
like you want to be seen as a good person,
right?
Right. So you jump in front of a bus to push a little girl out the way so she doesn't die. That's an intrinsic motivator, right? You don't care about anything else. That's you internally wanting to be seen as a good person, and as a good person, someone would do this, so you do that thing. Mm-hmm. But if we're talking about like a business sense, it's like, I want to be the best. Why? Because I want to be the best, because I know I can be, because I know I've got it in me. And this is something I want to achieve. Now, it could come from conditioning, and this is where it can get extrinsic, right? So you really got to tap into like the minutiae of it all. But the intrinsic motivator is always going to outlive extrinsic motivators because they continue to fuel the fire inside you, like the drive, not like the fire that's burning everything down.
Right.
And it's going to get you across the line. And the people that I find have clarity on where they want to go are more often than not motivated by intrinsic motivators. But also, because they've got that clarity, they know what not to do and what to avoid very specific. Because like, okay, these are the things I need to do. And then when it comes up like, you going to do this? Do you want to do this? They're like, no, doesn't really align with what I want to do. Thanks, see you later.
Right.
And so they don't get FOMO. Right? There's no, oh, well, I need to do this one thing. Like, no, you don't. You can say no to that and you'll be fine.
Right.
So with the performance hacking model and with this idea of why I got into the whole performance hacking thing is like, get these people like crystal clear on like what they're doing. You could say like, you got to start with why, right? The Simon Sinek thing. Can do. I think it's more than that. It's like getting down and figuring out like your core values and using that as a platform to build everything. It's like what you've done with your company. You built it off like your core values. Whether you knew it or not at the beginning, that's exactly what you did. Mm-hmm. And then now you build a company and teams that also buy into those values. So everyone's moving in the same direction. That's why the company grows. That's why everything's getting legs and starting to move on its own. You're like, oh, shit, this is just taking off. This is moving. This is great. And that's why.
So when did you get into coaching, hypnosis, and all that kind of stuff?
13 years ago.
Okay.
Give or take.
And what was the motivator behind that?
To get people to do what I wanted them
to. What people?
My bosses, my people that are working with me. So I started studying persuasion a long time ago, mostly because like I had a lot of resistance, right? And I thought the typical like victim shit. Like, oh, the world's against me. Like, why am I always getting fucked over? Why am I getting passed up for promotions? Why is this happening? Right. Oh, woe is me.
Right.
Such a tragedy.
Right. Had nothing to do with you.
Yeah. So I started going down and reading like language patterns. And I studied seduction like crazy because seduction is basically language patterns.
Right.
I'm like, I can just take this model and apply it somewhere else. And that's what I started doing. I got practice with women to see if it would work and got a lot of slaps in the face and like, whatever. But like putting this stuff to practice is how you get good at it, right? So I was like, put it into practice. and I still wasn't kind of getting some results, but I wasn't kind of getting the results. And I came across this one book, The Persuasion Black book by Rinta Basu, who died last year, by the way. And he learned from one of my other mentors. And so I read this book, and in the book they talk about like these language patterns are great, and they don't say it this way, but like if you're a piece of crap, you can use all the language patterns in the world, and it's still not really going to be that effective because there's no congruency there.
Sure.
It's like, oh, great. Just wasted 2 years.
Damn it.
And then, like in the book, they also talk about NLP. I don't know NLP is considered pseudoscience, but there is like some elements of NLP that are actually very effective. Not everything.
Right.
But some elements. And so I was like, okay, let's dive into this. Let's see how we're going. And so I started diving into NLP, and I read a couple of books, and I started doing like the techniques on myself. I was like, oh, okay, I'm getting some change. But I was still working in oil and gas. And then in 2013, OPEC had the oil war with the US because the US started fracking and was producing its own oil. And they're like, no, we're not happy with that. We control the oil supply, not you. And so they just started pumping barrels out. And then the oil price crashed. And so then I lost my job because you can't have like rigs and pay people if the rigs like are running at like 50% losses. Like it doesn't make sense, right? It's not business.
Right.
And so like I lost my job, which is kind of, what do they say, serendipitous.
Yeah.
Because when I was on the rig, I'm like, I really don't want to do this anymore. Like I'm just over this.
Yeah.
Like,
how long did you do that for?
Not that much, man.
Long enough to know you didn't want to do it.
7 years.
I mean, that's kind of a long time.
Not really.
I mean,
I was in school for 12. Hated that. Still
yeah, but I mean, fuck, work on a rig for 7 years.
Yeah, but you know, like
That's hard work. Yeah.
Sometimes.
Did you just, okay.
So I was a subsea engineer.
Okay.
So like if there's anyone watching rigs like that worked in rigs, they're going to tell you, oh, he's full of shit. Subsea engineers don't work. No, they got easy. They don't do anything.
Yeah. Well, ask Cody Brasher.
Like, it's like 50-50.
Okay.
Right? When the equipment is, so subsea engineers basically, have you seen the movie Deepwater Horizon?
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg?
Yep.
Right, okay. So the equipment that connected the rig to the bottom of the seafloor was all the stuff that I maintained, repaired, and certified. So when it fails, it's my ass and I get thrown in jail.
Get thrown in jail?
Yeah, if like people die, absolutely. You can go to jail for negligence and like criminal charges and shit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Good times.
Yeah.
So when the equipment's down on the bottom of the ocean, there's not that much work to go on. Like it's more like general maintenance. But when you pull it back up and you have to certify it and repair it and get everything ready to go back down again, like we're working like crazy. So it's feast or famine, kind of like roofing, right?
Yeah, very similar. Yeah.
So when there's no equipment on deck, it's pretty chill. When the equipment's on deck, like you're working like crazy. And we were doing like 17, 18-hour days, 19-hour days.
Right.
And like, I've got to convert here, like 32 degree heat. So like 90 degree, 95 degree heat with like 85, 90% humidity. And like you're working out there and like just sweating your balls off.
Yeah.
But like the job was good, but what I didn't like was just the environment, man. Like there were some great people out there. Like I got on well with my bosses for the most part. One of them really didn't, like we really had like a huge falling out at the end because I didn't really know how to speak to people, right? I lacked tact. And I was on my way out to work. It's funny, like two biggest times we were around like male role models in my life that went through some like bad times. So the first time I had like a lot of problems at work was when my dad got diagnosed with cancer and like I was over here working. And that was the whole Houston incident.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. And then the next one was when my grandfather passed away, who admittedly I wasn't that close with, not because I didn't care, but because I saw him for maybe like, I don't know, 10 weeks out of my entire life. Probably, let's just say 6 months. Let's be generous. Up until when I was 30. So we just didn't connect.
Yeah.
He wasn't one for talking on the phone or anything like that.
Right.
Like I look at my son's relationship with my mum, and like he called my mum on FaceTime while I was in the shower.
Really?
The phone was locked, and he unlocked my phone and called my mum. I'm like, how do you do that? You're not even 2. So, but he's speaking to my mum like 5 times a week. So they've got like a solid relationship, right?
Sure.
Like, I didn't have that kind of thing. And so I thought that I was like cool with it. But obviously there was like a lot of stuff like underneath it all, like me just like being Mr. Cool, right? And so like I'm going out to work to go on this rig. In WA, you have to go through this one specific place, A-class Marine Reserve, which means it's like the top classification for fauna and flora in Australia. So we had to go through and basically wear brand new shoes every time we went to work. So you basically take them out of the box and then you'd wear them to go on the plane because you can't take like any dirt or any dust or any like, it's ridiculous, man. And so like I put my shoes through this machine to clean them like 5 or 6 times. And on the 7th time I showed the lady, she's like, no, they're not good enough, clean them again. And I was just like, do you have to be a bitch? Like, can you just not tell me what specifically is wrong here?
Right.
Like, I just want to go to work. I'm about to go to work. I don't want to really go to work for 4 weeks. I'd rather be at home. You don't need to make my life a living hell on the way out to work. Like, just let me get on the damn plane. And she took offense to what I said.
Sure.
And asked for my name. So I showed her. And then by the time I got to the rig, it had already gone up to like the CEO of Exxon and then all the way down through Transocean. Yeah, and I got my ass handed to me when I got to the rig.
But you got on the plane.
I got on the plane. Yeah, the rig manager, like the OIM, like the installation manager, pulled me into his office. He's like, Clay, if you weren't a good worker, you would not have been coming out to work. But we're going to let you stay. You're going to write a formal apology. I'm like, but like, what? Like, she was, and he's like, please just write the apology. He's like, we've had 5 complaints about that woman already. I'm like, that's my point. So why am I getting slammed? I'm like, all right, whatever. So I wrote an apology and I forwarded it to the maintenance soup. And then he deleted like 95% of it and said, I'm really sorry about my behavior, blah, 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 and just sent it. And he like BCC'd me on the email. He's like, so we're clear. I deleted most of what you wrote because it wasn't an apology. So I wrote, I'm really sorry about this, but blah, 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 blah. So
I'm really sorry that you're a bitch. And
so when I got out there, like I was supposed to get promoted that rotation.
Oh.
And the promotion got thrown out the window. And the guy that was going to promote me, we had a great relationship up until then. And the relationship just got deteriorated. And he's like, yeah, I can't trust you. I can't do this and blah, blah, blah. I'm not putting you in charge of this. And like things like kind of went pear-shaped after then.
Yeah. And
like that kind of brought around like more of this element to like really dial into like learn how to persuade people.
Right.
But then it also like there's this mirror in my face like, look here, motherfucker.
Yeah.
You really need to pay attention to this. And so I started like really diving into like work through my own trouble, and here we are. Like, you know, it's been a huge shift in like how I operate and like how I show up in the world and a lot of things like that. So a lot of introspection, a lot of hypnosis.
I can't remember if we said this on the first fucking run through this or the second one, but the hypnosis thing is what surprised me the most of how the changes that I had and the impact that it had, and able to do it over Zoom.
That was on the previous one.
Was it on the previous one? Okay. But like the fact that, you know, like everybody would think that you have to do that in person to have an effect, right?
Yeah.
But we didn't. And I remember when Paul told me the first time, he was like, all right, look, so this motherfucker is going to hypnotize you. And, so I fucking blacked out, and Kim had to come wake me up because like there was no phone, like, and I was like, what the fuck? But that wasn't obviously my experience, and you know, whatever. But I was really, it's such a weird word to use in this, but like after we had a few sessions, I was so grateful because of what transpired during some of those things when we went back in time and like did all this other, you know, crazy shit. And because everybody asked me like, what do you do? Like, what do you do? And I'm like, fuck, I don't know. Like, I'm like, we just do some crazy shit and it has a lot of impact. Right. And I've learned over the course of probably the last 5 years or so that everything that I've done in my life that has made me feel a little bit uncomfortable has yielded the largest fucking results.
Asymmetric every time.
Every single fucking time.
Yep.
And I know that like a lot of people that are watching believe that as well, but I know that there's other people watching that don't do anything uncomfortable. And
yeah,
I really want to stress how important that is. You have to do shit that makes you uncomfortable, or that you don't maybe know something about, but you trust in the person that they do know, right?
So here's the thing. Everyone does things that are uncomfortable all the time. What they need to do is things that are unfamiliar. Right? So let's take it this way. So there was a period when I was like doing like specifically just trauma stuff before I really went down like the performance hacking side of things, which is a lot of fun.
Trauma is?
Yeah. It's so much fun to work with, man. Like when you see, I used to do a lot of work with military vets because like PTSD is a bitch, right?
Sure.
I've been in the military. I definitely had some kind of PTSD, but not from that, just from me being a moron. And like friends of mine that have been to war zones come back and they just go off the rails.
Yeah.
And they get thrown in jail. And the military is great at turning you into this weapon.
Yep.
Like you're trained to be this sailor or this whatever or blah, 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 blah. And then like when you get out, like, oh, here's like $1,500 to go do a course to get you ready for civilian life. I'm like, how about all the deconditioning so these people like can like move forward?
Right.
And so I used to do like workshops for vets for free.
Oh.
So like we could like move through stuff.
That had to be impactful.
Yes and no, man. Like it's a strange beast, right? So I don't know now because I've been out of the military for a long time. But when I left the military, like it was still kind of like the man's man kind of thing. Like you're a pussy if you get trauma. You're a faggot if you do this. You're a this if you do that, right?
Right.
Still all this like insecure male macho drama.
Yeah.
Which doesn't serve anyone. Like not a single person gets better from that attitude. And so there's this thing around it, like where like, oh, you're like, well, you don't know what I've been through, so you can't help me. I'm like, that's not exactly true. Like I might not be able to connect with you on it in the same level. That doesn't mean that the work that we do together will not work and will not completely transform your life.
Sure.
Right? Like I don't need to go and learn rocket science to understand and appreciate that a rocket can work, right? And like here's another thing which kind of cracks me up. So I had this one lady that came, she goes like, I've been hypnotized by so many people, like it just doesn't work. I'm just not hypnotizable. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, so have you ever taken your car to a garage? She's like, yeah. I'm like, was a mechanic, really low class and did a really bad job? Yeah, okay. So I bet after that you'd said, my car just can't get repaired, right? I can't do anything with my car. Like, it's just not fixable. She's like, I just went and took another mechanic. I'm like, oh, really? Wow. So like has like something to do with the skill of the operator maybe?
Right.
And that's also another problem because then you go into like hypnosis and so like there's this standard thing where it's like, okay, I can't remember the actual measurements, but like 20% of the people in the world can go into hypnosis like this. And like 70% can go on this and then like 10% can't be hypnotized at all. You know how they measured that? They put someone in a room with a tape recorder that had like a progressive relaxation thing on there. A tape recorder, man. It's like a paste thing where like it's just a voice.
Right.
It's got no entrainment. It's got no brainwave audio. It's like it was just a person doing direct hypnosis.
Right.
Talking like this. And you'll go into trance.
That was what they based those numbers off of.
Yeah. But like that's not an interactive experience.
Right.
Right? So yeah, okay, maybe for recordings it's possible, but like hypnosis is about the experience and the interaction and ultimately I think it's about the connection between the two people, right? There's going to be some people that's like, man, I'm not going to work with you. Like, you're weird as fuck.
Right.
I'm like, oh, cool, no worries, man. Like, go find someone else to work with.
Yeah.
And then there's other people, like, when you connect, and they're like, man, I will happily, like, let you go and, like, turn my brain around and let's, like, run a million.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very, very subjective.
So to talk a little bit about, for people that don't understand what hypnosis is, what it actually is, and then what you do with it.
Simplest way to put it down is it's monofocus. Extreme monofocus. Focus on a singularity, one idea, that's it. And we should probably start with what it isn't, right? People think hypnosis is, even though we haven't started, we've already started with that, right? So people think hypnosis is like, okay, like Paul did blackout because I was having fun. But like we don't need to do those things, right?
Right.
But you're different. Like you remember not everything. You remember a lot of the stuff we talk about most of the time. But there's some times where I mess with you a bit and then you don't remember. And typically I only ever do that if I think there's going to be some subconscious resistance to the change. But if there's no subconscious resistance, like there's no like, and you can tell typically in the languaging when people are talking about certain things. Yeah. Right? But if there's no like really subconscious resistance, it's just about realigning and connecting with it, so everything goes in the same direction, and then like there's no problem. But like you hear everything else that's going on around you, you don't care about it.
Right.
You can hear my voice. My voice goes with you in hypnosis. You know you're safe. Your eyes are closed. You can feel your body. It's not like the world ceases to exist. So what's that? There's a movie where they took like the brains out of black people and like put white people brains. It's like some weird ass movie.
Was it a Tyler Perry movie?
No.
Is it like a horror movie?
What was it, man? It was super weird. So like, it started off with this black guy walking down the street, and there's this car following him, and like he's in like a nice neighborhood, and like it's creepy, right? And then like the next thing you know, you see the guy disappeared, and then there's this white girl and a black guy, and she's taking him back to her parents' house to meet the parents for the first time, and it's basically like they're farming him, right? Because these white people want to steal these black young bodies, and they're taking a perfectly good brain and putting it in this black body. They've made some surgery process. And in that movie, people were freaked out, man, because this lady is a hypnotist. She's a psychotherapist and a hypnotist. And she hypnotizes people, and like they're stuck in the chair and they can't move and they're freaking out. She goes, "Don't worry, nothing's going to hurt. We're just going to do this, blah, blah, blah." And like, they go, yeah. And so people freak out because they're like, "Oh, hypnosis means like I'm going to lose complete control.
Right.
I'm not going to be able to do this." And while, you know, it can be argued you can do those kind of things, but those kind of things takes like a lot of social engineering and a lot of work up. So like Darren Brown's a guy that set up, and people didn't believe what he did, but he legitimately did it. He convinced someone to go rob a bank and shoot someone. But the social engineering to set that up took weeks.
Right.
Right? And they were interacting daily. Right? It's not me just getting on a Zoom session with you going, "Okay, now you're going to go and shoot the president." Like, come on, man. Like,
right.
And so people get like these lines.
That's more like brainwashing.
Yeah, which like you can do.
Yeah.
Right? But that's like a whole nother level of difference. I mean,
right.
I got brainwashed. You're getting brainwashed when you're watching news. I got brainwashed in the military, right?
Right.
I got brainwashed to believe that leaving Australia to go to the other side of the world was going to provide freedom for Australia. Like, what?
Right. How?
So,
yeah.
So, I mean, brainwashing happens all the time. I guess the best thing is, like, are you being brainwashed in a way that's useful for you or not? And that's really the question you got to ask.
Right.
But with hypnosis is not about losing control. Hypnosis is about, my personal view is it's about getting a singular focus towards something that just pulls you towards it. Like it's like gravity. And that's the purpose of hypnosis, is to get everything aligned, your emotions, your behaviors, your actions, your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, everything moving in the same direction. That's what hypnosis is for. And all it is just teaching the body how to relax, teaching the mind how to open, and allowing a bypass of the conscious mind so the subconscious mind can make the changes necessary. Because I don't really like even using the term subconscious. I like using the term pre-conscious. Because
making up our own terms.
Yeah.
Okay.
Legitimately. Like I've been doing a lot of thought about this, right? And when you think about it, like talk about subconscious means like below, right? It's below conscious awareness. And okay, you can say that. But I like before because when you think about it, most of the subconscious stuff, pre-conscious stuff, happened before you even had a conscious mind. So it was pre-consciousness.
Sure.
Right? So it just makes sense. Like, because you only really start developing a conscious mind at the age of like 7 to 10, right? Depending on like your maturity level.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like typically like kids from 0 to 6, like running around, like if you talk about like brainwave states and like theta and delta states, right? Which means, it doesn't mean they only have theta brainwaves and delta brainwaves. What it means is that's the strongest amplitude brainwave that's going on. So it's like the predominant one, right?
Right.
It doesn't mean the others don't exist, which is another common myth, but it's another story for another day. So what happens is like they're just in this open state where like they're you've seen kids like a Tigan, just a sponge, just takes everything in, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. But that's going to stop soon, and she's not going to necessarily just take everything in, right? Which isn't the problem. Like that's how we start growing and develop this conscious mind and brew it out. So when you start going through and you start thinking from that point of view, which is why a lot of stuff is like regression, but you don't have to necessarily do regression. Right? A lot of people think, oh, you have to go back to the root cause and you have to do this. I'm like, there is not one document that I have found, and that a couple of my mentors have searched for as well, that proves root cause theory.
Meaning
you go back to this one specific event and it's going to change everything.
If you deal with that event,
then like everything's going to collapse. But it's never been proven.
Okay.
Right? And then if you look at the way that the brain structures itself, like they call it branch logic, like it's a tree, right?
Okay.
But one of my mentors, John Oberembt, super clever dude, starts talking about rhizomatic structures. And like a rhizome's a mushroom, right? And if you pull the mushroom off over here, it doesn't mean it's going to die. It's just going to keep popping up over there and over there and over there. Like everything, and that's what the brain is. Like it just continues going. There's no beginning, there's no end. It's just the brain.
Right.
And a rhizome is a very similar structure to how the brain actually works, right? Especially with neuroplasticity when you start thinking about that. So when you start like really diving into it and really getting into the nuts and bolts of it, the change work itself is really about shifting and reallocation of resources. And hypnosis allows us to do that exceptionally fast because the way it does it is it starts to shift the active or the predominantly active areas in the brain. So the normal mechanisms that would be up to guard you against getting that are now down. So that's why you can make like changes so fast.
Gotcha. That makes sense. What I was going to, I don't know why this jumped into my head, but one of the other topics that we talk a lot about on here is the people that we surround ourselves with and how we're using those people
Rule of five.
Right. And I remember a conversation that you and I had at one time with you living over in Thailand, and just that, like how small like your circle is, because you don't, like you said before, like if I'm not going to go do something that doesn't direct me towards my goal or what I'm doing in life or whatever. How do you deal with that and make sure that, especially since you're on this tiny little fucking island and you know what I mean? Like you still have to surround yourselves with people that are on the same, journey, path, whatever it is that you can feed into. Because I was literally talking with Matt last night about this, and I was talking about how if I don't do two things, and one of them being make sure that I stay connected with the people that are helping me grow, right? Just by having continuous conversations with them. I always love the phrase of, if you hang out with, 5 millionaires, you'll be the sixth. And if you hang out with 5 fucking pieces of shit, you'll be the fucking sixth. Right. So I try to be intentional about making sure that I continue to reach out to those people that have been put into my life and that I've got in my life to continue that growing. What do you do? like being, and I don't want to say isolated, you're not isolated, but you're on another side of the world, right? To make sure that you're continuously doing that as well.
It's going to be a bit of a weird answer.
Okay. I mean, that's just kind of what you do. So fuck it. Yeah. Get used to weird answers, folks.
Have you ever read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill?
Yeah.
Okay. So in there, I'm going to mess this up, but
actually, I'm going to lie. I lied. I read half of it.
That's enough.
So I read half of it and I was like, this is confusing, and I stopped.
Okay.
Like he talks weird in it.
Yeah.
Right?
That's fair.
Yeah. He's like, yeah.
It's a pretty good book though. Like when you get,
I need to read it again.
A lot of the concepts are pretty solid.
Yeah.
But there's also like a lot of stuff in there. So I can't remember what page it is, but there's one specific page where he starts talking about like you need to say this specific thing every day, and then like all your dreams will materialize and do this.
Ooh. Is that the manifesting word you hate so much?
It could be.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if he says manifest, but like that's just say it is.
Yeah.
So, and like I fully do not believe that if you just say that thing, everything's going to happen, right?
Right.
But whatever. Each their own. Maybe for someone it does. So that book is something where he talks about your inner counsel. Right? Now, you know about this. Mm-hmm. Right. So my inner counsel is made up of like different people that I bring in and out. So Elon Musk is one of mine. Mm-hmm. Okay. Richard Branson's another. I've got Gandhi in there. Right?
That's a good chat.
Yeah. Bruce Lee.
Ooh.
Right? Just because like his discipline and like so like for people that have no clue what I'm talking about right now, basically what happens is inside my mind I go inside like in a boardroom, if you will. And in there I've got these people in there and I have conversations with them about answers and what I want to solve and like what I want to do and like how I would approach certain elements in my life. And that's what kind of keeps me on track. Like, and then obviously, you mentioned at the start, like the relationship has grown from just being a coaching relationship into like an actual friend.
Right.
So I have a very hard and fast rule. I will not work with someone if I couldn't imagine myself having a beer with them at a bar.
Right.
And neither of us drink.
Right.
So you get this figurative term, not literal, right?
Yeah.
But if it's someone that I wouldn't be happy to go have a beer with, then I'm like, why would I want to sit there and help them get better? Because
is the answer
feel like complaining?
Is the answer from somebody else to that question so that they can try to become the person that you would want to have a beer with one day?
No.
I'm just playing devil's advocate. Yeah.
No, because like, so I learned through trial and error that if you try and help everyone, you help no one.
Right.
And so what started happening was like, oh, okay, yeah, you know what, like, not really, like we don't really gel, but let me do this.
Right.
And that person started taking up more and more and more of my time and my energy. And so it started like destroying my energy with other people. And so I was like, it's not worth it. So I'm like, you know what? There's your money back. I'm sorry for wasting your time. These are two people that I think you'll gel with really well. Go speak to them and tell them like I sent you because we don't really gel. And I've done that before.
Right.
Because we didn't really gel. And I said, look, we didn't gel. They're not a bad person. Like, they're a good person. They want to change.
Right.
Like, give them a shot. And, like, went on, like, fire, man. Like, and they had a great time. They got really good results. And then that just became good.
It's kind of the old business, that old business acumen of, like, you make 80% of your money on 20% of your clients.
100%.
Right?
100%.
That's such a hard fucking lesson for people to learn too, because everybody thinks that everybody needs to be their fucking client.
Yeah.
And I think the hardest thing as an owner, like for owners and leaders that are watching, to teach their fucking salespeople that, because they think everybody is a customer because everybody has their money. And I'm like, all money is not fucking good money.
That's right.
Because they will figure out a way to take it away. Every fucking time.
Yep.
Drives me nuts. But like, that's such a lesson to learn. If you can learn that lesson at like a young age,
it's a lot of heartache.
Dude, you're so fucking far ahead of the game. Like, you're so far ahead of the game if you can learn that lesson.
I think it applies, well, I don't think. It seems to apply universally. It's not just business, right? Mm-hmm. Like, 20% of your friends are going to be like the ones you spend 80% of your time with.
Yeah.
20% of your activities are going to give you 80% of like your enjoyment.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy. When you start like figuring it out, it doesn't mean you have to cut everything else out. But when you make that like the core of what you do, which is like, that's what the whole point of the yellow brick code was, right?
Right.
Like to like really focus on like all the core elements, like accelerate those. And then like if other stuff comes your way, you take it. But if it doesn't, don't.
Right.
And that's, I think that then ties back into everything with like performance hacking, right? So how do you get the 1%? Like how do you focus on the things that move the needle the most for you, and then be cool with like, okay, I don't really need anything else.
Right. Talk about your program that's popping out now.
That wasn't.
I wanted to. I want to know more about the program that's going out now, because the one that
just released.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's been a long time coming, man. I had people reaching out to me a long time ago asking for help. And then you remember the whole debacle about the app, which just like tanked everything.
No, tell me about it. That's a whole nother podcast, everybody.
That's like 7 podcasts to unpack that.
Yeah.
But to give a nutshell, the new program I created was like an entry path for people who potentially weren't ready for like the core program that we have, right? Which is like accelerating everything and getting everything. Because the fundamental thing I saw was that people were like, as they say, spinning their wheels, right? They're stuck in indecision. Their life is lacking meaning or whatever it is.
Yep.
They're not really feeling fulfilled each day, all these kind of things. And so the idea was, okay, what's like the smallest thing that we can give them that's going to take the least amount of time and give them like a significant thing? And so I took a meditation system that is comprised of things I've been taught by one of my mentors, John, and by from like hypnosis trainings and a whole bunch of other stuff, and then even stuff from like there's like one element that I read about a long time ago and then got like thrown back in my face from Huberman's podcast, right? And I'm like, oh, that's great. I forgot about that. And
from whose podcast?
Andrew Huberman.
I don't know who that is.
He's a neuroscientist.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's weird. That's not on my playlist, but yeah, go on.
It's a pretty good podcast.
I'm sure it is. Yeah, definitely one I wouldn't have looked up unless someone like you told me to.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
But like it teaches a lot of pretty cool stuff. So we've got this like body-based meditation system, right? Because most people I know, like I can't meditate. I don't have the time for that. Like it takes way too long to learn meditate to this. So I'm like, okay, here's a system that'll teach you how to meditate in an hour, and you'll be like, if you go through the whole, like all the videos. But if you just go through like the quick explainer video, you'll be able to meditate better than most people in 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. Because it goes through the body and teaches you how to leverage the body to shut down the mind versus trying to tame the mind 1,000 times and never works.
Right.
So like, okay.
Dude, that fucking works, by the way, because I use it to fall asleep now.
Yes.
So like I use it like even if I'm not listening to you in my headphones,
you don't need to.
All I do is I sit there and I go, and I'm like, sink your fucking legs into the fucking bed and sink your fucking back. And then all of a sudden I'm fucking asleep.
That's a different meditation.
Well, whatever it is, I don't know.
You're talking about a nap session.
What's that?
You're talking about a nap session, which is like leveraging like a lot of hypnotic protocols. This is different.
Oh.
You don't actually have this yet. We can sort that out.
What the fuck? No, go on.
No, we can sort it out later. It's fine. So this is like, it's a lot of neurological stuff, right? Because I'm like, okay, how do we like leverage the body? Because that's the premise of like what we're trying to do here. How do you leverage your neurology to like get in your favor? How do you leverage your psychology? How do you leverage your technology to like everything work together? And so these are like the real core things that you could do, which would take bugger all time and get like massive results. Mm-hmm. And so the meditation was one, which is like 7 different steps. So like you reset your nervous system, then you relax your tongue, then you loosen your jaw, then you expand your awareness, then you start to slow down your breathing rate and you extend your exhales, and then you're syncing your eyes with your, like it's a whole bunch of stuff, but it's all things that have neurological impact and start to shift you from sympathetic arousal, which means like stressed fight or flight, into parasympathetic arousal or dominance, which means I'm relaxed, I'm chill, my body's safe. And so you can do pretty much all those steps when you're driving a car, when you're standing in line at the bank, when you're ordering food. Like So you can learn to like completely relax your body no matter what you're doing, no matter where you are, and then you start like to create this thing. Because what I've noticed is that in this day and age, people tend to be way more stressed more of the time.
Sure.
And so like giving like something that you can do with your body that reduces or eliminates it in the moment is a brilliant thing to have.
Talk about the breathing a little bit, because I think
What
people.
about it? Which part?
I mean, there's so much, right? But I mean, like
that's a whole podcast.
Yeah, it is a whole podcast. I mean, we've spent some time working together on different situations that I might be in, like before I'm going on stage to speak, right? And different breathing techniques to use to either calm down or amp up or whatever.
Right.
What's the what'd you call the session thing that we did where we're fucking screaming into pillows and being goofy fuckers? What was that called? I don't know. Yeah,
I can't remember what I call the session now. Clean slate protocol is what I actually call it.
Yeah, but like, what's that breathing technique called? Isn't it like who?
You're not the breath of fire, because it's not breath of fire.
No.
I don't know.
I guess the point
it's
was
just an intense breathing technique.
The point was that there's these amazing breathing techniques, protocols, whatever that you can do to completely change your state.
Oh, yeah, but breathing is
Right.
like a fast way to change your state. Well,
Right.
actually, it's not.
Okay.
Fast way to change your state is to shift your mouth.
Meaning?
Meaning, if you force a smile on your face, you will start to feel happier.
Huh.
Yeah, there was like this one test they were doing. It was either Stanford or Yale, I can't remember. And people had to stand in front of a mirror and force a smile, and it got them to start smiling. And after like 21 days of doing it for like 10 minutes, not very serious cases, but like some cases of depression were getting reverted and inversed because they were forcing, like, it's again, body up, right?
Yeah.
Because the body sends signals to the brain. So it's like telling you, no, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. So you keep repeating that, and then you get the result.
Fucking brain's crazy.
Brain's awesome, man. Like, you get to do so much cool stuff with it.
You really do. Mm-hmm. So what I want to wrap up with here is, because you're in Houston, you're going to tell the Houston story.
Oh, all right. All right.
I think that's only fair for everybody.
We can do that.
We got to have the Houston story about your last. Is it I assume it's your last experience in Houston.
No.
Oh, you came back?
Yeah, I came back a couple of times, man. So like, Houston's like, there's a lot of oil and gas stuff here, right? So GE has a factory here. Cameron is another oil and gas manufacturer that like has like a factory here and stuff. And so we had to do like trainings.
Okay.
Schaefer's another one. I used to come work on their stuff. So we had like do like courses on like control systems and on BPs and all this kind of stuff. And BOPs, not BPs. And we have to like learn the systems and build the systems. And then, okay, we go back out and now we can repair. So when was this? 2011. 2011, I got off the job in 2010. And in 2011, I come out to train in America, which was like my first experience of the most strangest phrase that you guys have, no homo. I was like blown away. Like this guy, we were down in Morgan City in Louisiana. And if you don't know where it is, don't look it up on a map. It's a shithole. But we're down in Morgan City, and this guy says to me, "Hey man, that's a real nice looking shirt you got on there. No homo." I'm like, what? He's like, no homo. I'm like,
Yeah. I don't want to fuck you, but I like your shirt.
Like, explain it to me. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, why do you say that? He's like, well, because like you're a man and you look real good, and I just want you to know, I'm not hitting on you. I'm like, whoa, so you're that insecure that you think I want to fuck you,
right?
Because you told me that this looks good on me. Like, I can just take a compliment, man. Like, it doesn't mean I want to ravage you because I'm a homosexual because you say I look great. But
that's hilarious.
So that happened initially, and then 2 weeks later, we were up in Katy, Texas, which is like, I don't know, 20 minutes out of Houston or whatever.
Yep.
And
actually, not true, because everything's an hour in Houston. So
okay,
yeah, but go on.
Without traffic.
Yeah, everything's a fucking hour. Yeah.
So we're doing some training, and before I left, my dad got diagnosed with cancer, and he was having surgery that night, I believe. Now, I could be kind of meddling up, but I'm pretty confident like it was Thursday night, Friday morning in Australia was a surgery. I'm very confident that's how it was. I could be wrong. And obviously, like I'd left and like that's in the back of my mind, right? I also, so we're clear at this stage, still had a lot of other drama that I needed to sort out in my life that I probably hadn't sorted out, like stuff from the military and other stuff as well. And so things weren't really sitting well with me. And one of my buddies who I used to work with in the Navy, and I got the job and came over with me, he's like, hey man, let's just go down to the pub. So we went down to this pub, I'm pretty sure it's called Watson's. And actually I started seeing one of the bartenders there. Cool chick.
If anybody knows Watson's, let us know if it's still there.
So it wasn't next door to the Crown Plaza, which I don't even think is the Crown Plaza anymore. So we went down to the pub. Now in Australia, $20 will get you 2 pints of beer. That's it, if you're lucky.
Really?
Yeah. $10 a pint, usually $12 to $15 a pint now. So I'm like, take my...
In Australian dollars?
Yeah, in Australia. Yeah, but like,
which I don't know how that converts.
At the time, it was 1-to-1.
Oh.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and like, my friend was working down at the bar, so I didn't need to take my ID, right? Because she knew us, so like, I don't need it. So I took my room key and $20. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll be fine. It's $2 pitcher night, isn't it?
It was what?
$2 pitcher night.
Ooh, fuck, one of those.
So Clay got on it.
Yeah.
And woke up the next day in a jail cell, having absolutely zero recollection of how I got there. To the point where I was like so deluded, I jumped out of the top bunk and walked over the door and tried opening the cell door. And I hear this voice behind me, what the fuck you doing, man? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm going home. He's like, man, this ain't no dream. You in fucking jail, dumbass. And yeah, so then I found myself in jail. And I was getting processed and getting my little orange jumpsuit and all that good drama. And like, there's this room where they put you, I don't know what you call it. I'm just going to call it a holding room.
Yeah, holding cell.
Okay. But it might not be a holding cell because it's where all the phones are.
Yeah.
Right? So they're processing you.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm seeing all these people making calls. I'm like, oh, okay. So I can pretty much kiss the next 3 to 5 years of life goodbye. I need to find a way to call my parents or like whatever, which you can't do because you couldn't call cell phones at that time.
Right.
Right. You could only call landlines.
Right.
I'd been in the country all 2 weeks. I didn't know anyone's landline.
Sure.
And I'm like, this is going to be interesting. So I had at that point, so I hadn't done any of the work to change myself. I had been doing a lot of seduction work and a lot of persuasion work, right? And I see this lovely lady sitting there like processing and like doing things. And so went up to her and started like using a lot of the stuff I said and got her to allow me to send an email, which you are not supposed to do. And I sent an email to my mum, my brother, and my girlfriend at the time.
I haven't heard this part of the story.
Yeah. Because I asked her if she could send. She goes, oh, no, I can't do that. But you can lose my computer, honey. You take it. And so I fired this email off, and I had to literally write in the title, this is not a fucking joke. Because it's well within my nature to like mess around with my parents.
Sure.
Like that, right? So I send this email saying, look, I'm in Harris County. I got locked up. I did something stupid. Please don't ask me what, because I actually don't know. I blacked out. Yeah, I fucked up. I'll see you in 3 to 5 years. And we get processed, and we're waiting around, and I was everyone's friend. Because they're like, there's this fucking crazy Australian in here. We have no idea how he got in here, but like, no one cared that I was wide aware. It was like, oh, there's just some crazy Aussie that was drunk and did stupid shit. So that was a good aspect of it, because I was like never really in any danger of anyone. Like I could be friends with everyone because I didn't belong anywhere, right?
Right.
So we're getting processed and getting like put into the cells, and you hear this Moffat, Moffat,
Moffat.
I'm sitting there because it's Moffat, right?
Right.
Moffat, God damn it, boy! If you don't fucking answer me one more time, I'm like, Moffat?
It's the fucking Key and Peele fucking episode, right?
And hey, Ron.
Yeah. If you fuck with me again, Ron.
So yeah, I'm like, Moffat goes, God damn it. I'm like, all right, that's me. And he's like, you posted bail, get your ass over here. So like,
So fat.
my mom had like $10,000 bail, man. Yeah.
Holy
for
shit.
criminal mischief and criminal trespass, 2 misdemeanors. And it was downgraded from a felony, breaking and entering, because I was trying to get into the wrong house because I was drunk and I thought it was my friend's house and it wasn't.
So how did they figure out that that was the case so that they could drop it? So they could drop it down?
Well, no, like the cops in the car were like, super, super nice, man.
You were told.
Yeah, like I was in the car.
Because you don't remember that, right?
Was like I was sitting outside the front of the house on the curb waiting for the cops to come. That's what I got told. And so they came and picked me up and they cuffed me and they put me in the back of the car. Like, man, you're in big trouble. Like, you don't understand what happened. Like, this is what I get told. Like, oh, what? I haven't. Like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, man, you did a felony. Like, you're going to jail. Like, felony
in Texas.
Yeah. And like, they ended up dropping it down to a misdemeanor because they're like, this guy clearly did, like, there was no malintent. It was not malicious. He wasn't trying to do anything wrong. He's just some bumbling drunk moron.
Yeah.
So they can't. That's the only reason why we're here now having this conversation.
Right. Because you still have a hard time.
Yeah, I get put in a naughty corner every time.
Did you this time? You didn't tell me.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
How long did it take you to get out?
About an hour and a half.
Really?
Yeah, so I got to wait in line for an hour. And then they go, oh, you need to go over there. I'm like, okay, no worries. And but they were way more intense this time, man. They're like, okay, where are you going? So I had to like give them like the address of everywhere I was staying, which I didn't have to do before.
Right.
I just basically said like, oh, this is where I'm going, this is where I'll be. And like, they want to see all my flights. They want to see like my accommodation, everything. Yeah, whatever, no problem. Like, I've got nothing to hide. So, yeah. So, yeah. That was like, that's not the end of it, actually. So I'm there for work, and my mum posts bail because like $10,000 bail, right? Which I ended up giving her back, so she didn't have the credit card debt. And like I called my boss the next day. I'm like, hey, I need to speak to you like privately. And the only reason I didn't lose my job is because it sleeted in Houston that Thursday night. And Friday, everything was shut
down.
Exactly. So I was in jail for like 48 or 50 hours, but no one was the wiser because it was on Friday. Saturday, I got out Sunday. So like no one was the wiser. And on Monday, because I didn't have to drive, I got out because of bail, I just went to work. And so like I called my boss and said, hey, I need to talk to you about something. And I said, look, this is what happened. He's like, what do you want me to do? Do you want to get out of the country? I'm like, no. I definitely don't want to do that because that's going to cause a lot of trouble. What I'd like you to do is let me keep my job. I'll sort this out. This won't be a problem. Just let me keep my job. He's like, if you can sort this out, you keep your job, no problem.
Yeah.
He's like, you're honest? You want to tell me about this stuff? He goes, I respect that. You can keep your job. So I'm like, all right, sweet. So then I get a lawyer. Now I start going through the process. And I go to court like 2 or 3 times. And the prosecutor just wants to bury me, right?
Really?
Oh, yeah. Wants to put me through the ringer and like, no, he's a piece of trash. He's this, blah, 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 blah. So my mum comes over for like the last court case where like I'm going to get sentenced. And she happens to bring my military service record. And shows it to like my defense attorney. And he goes over to the prosecutor and he sees like commendations. He served in Iraq. He did this. He was fighting with the Americans. Fucking charges dropped. Had to pay like 26 grand to fix a door. Pretty expensive door.
That is an expensive door.
Expensive night out.
Fucking man. River Oaks, yeah.
But yeah, like my old man's like, see, the Navy got you out. I'm like, the Navy got me into it. I would have got that job if I wasn't in the Navy.
Right. But they didn't drop it. Like
they dropped. Like all charges dropped.
Oh, but it still shows up.
Fingerprints, bro.
Yeah. Okay.
Fingerprints.
So the actual charge was dropped.
Charges were dismissed.
Got it. Totally, but your fingerprints are in the system, so you pop.
Yeah, every single time.
That's fantastic.
Which is fine. Like it's not a problem.
Yeah. Well, at least you know to expect it now. Yeah. So yeah.
Like the last 14 times.
Oh my God. That's hilarious. All right. So the way that we always end every episode is there's always something that I usually forget to bring up that the guest wanted to talk about, or we moved on too quickly from something that we were talking about in the middle, that, the guest usually wants to expand on and make sure that the audience knows about. So I always give the floor back for the last few minutes for anything that either I forgot to bring up, you wanted to bring up, and definitely plug your program, and anything else you want to leave the people with.
I was just happy to chat with you, man. It's been a long time.
Aw.
We've been wanting to do this for quite a while.
Yeah.
And I legitimately thought this was going to happen in Thailand because I didn't know when I was going to get over here next.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The only thing is like, okay, if we circle back to the whole performance hacking thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's been a lot going on with that, right? And like that's like my main focus, which is why that's what the books that I'm writing are about and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And we're not going into that. Like that's a long way away. We're just
right.
not talking.
We'll tease that later.
No.
Yeah.
No. The point was like a lot of people talk like you have to have like this self-awareness to like be able to make changes, and you don't have to have self-awareness. You just need to be aware of whether what you're doing is yielding what you actually want. Right?
Okay.
So self-awareness is like awareness of your emotions, awareness of your thoughts, awareness of your ego and the integration, all that, right? And so that's why I say it's kind of different. But what I will say is this. If you are not aware of something, you have zero chance of having any control over it, because you can't be aware of, like, you can't have control over something you're not aware of. So a lot of people start talking about, okay, well, like, how do I get this awareness? And the simple thing is like, there's a thing that I had you doing recently, like tracking like your strengths and like the habits and stuff like that. And just by putting something down on a spreadsheet and saying like, how often am I executing this, and how well am I executing this? And it's like it's an anecdotal thing, but what it starts doing is it starts training your brain to focus on what moves the needle most. And that is the essence of mental conditioning. That's also the essence of performance hacking. Is like putting your awareness on the things that move the needle and figuring out, okay, is this what's happening, and is this what's going to get me the result? And going down to that singular focus and shifting everything into that path. And then the simple question comes back to, is this moving me closer to what I want or further away from it? And that's just like your guiding question. That's your North Star. And is like a question you can ask, like, is this podcast moving me closer or further away from it? Is drinking this water? Like you can go like into like the smallest amount of detail, and that's like your North Star. So like if you could take one thing away from this call, there's probably going to take a lot away from the Houston story, but
that'll get the most clips. Yeah. Lexi will cut the most clips from that one, but yeah, go on.
But yeah, like if you can do like that one thing, then like that's going to be your surefire way to be on like the fastest track to success.
Love that. Love that. Everybody watching, you have to, I believe, you have to have somebody in your life that is helping direct where you're going. I definitely believed at one time in my life that I could be that person, but I never realized that I didn't know what I didn't know.
Well, you can be that person to an extent, right? But the problem is, like, you're in it.
Right.
And so it's like, here's the best way I like to explain it. When you're walking down the street and you see a couple arguing, it's kind of funny, right? Depending, like, if the guy's beating the woman, it's not funny.
Right.
But, like, just so we're clear.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
But
marital abuse, not funny.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like, if they're arguing with each other, like, why are you even arguing about it? That seems so stupid.
Right.
Because you're not in it.
Right.
Right? And as soon as you're not in it, you can see it for what it is.
Yeah.
And it makes it easy to help the person redirect. You're like, hey, let's just take a chill pill because we can reorient.
Oh, that's our little exercise. Yeah.
Right?
Gotcha,
like, you were going through some stuff recently, and I said to you, it's going to be so easy, it's not funny. And then a month or two later,
I was so fucking annoyed by that statement too.
And then a month or two later,
you know how fucking hard it was for me to get to there? I'm like, how the fuck am I going to get back to there?
And then you went past it in less than 2 fucking months.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah,
right. Because when you're on the outside, you can see things, and then when you when you work with someone and you have that trust, right? You're there and you're talking with this person and you're connecting with this person. You trust. You can take agency from what they're telling you because they have your best interest at heart. And so, you know, my whole shtick about trust, right? Mm-hmm. Right, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Okay. And so for everyone watching, I believe that trust is an illusion. And I believe what people mistake for trust is that there's a mutually beneficial outcome.
Because the way you said it to me was, I trust everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
Well, because you do. You trust everyone is going to look after their own best interests.
Right.
Right? And my best interests align with your best interests because I want to get you to where you want to go. Because I want to be a person in your life that is going to help you get everything you want from life.
Right.
And if at some point in the future, which I don't think there will, but if it does happen, where that starts to deviate, then that's okay because I've served my purpose for you and you're like, okay, like we're good.
Yeah.
Right? And so that then starts to create this whole thing like, oh, well, I didn't get betrayed. Like it served its purpose.
Right.
And now we can move on to something bigger and better. You know what I mean? And so
there's a lesson there. Rewind that fucking comment. That's a if I had the Bradley dropping bombs fucking thing, I would do the little button.
You can get a button.
But that's true. But that's really, I mean, like, that's a huge fucking statement that people need to think about. Like, I'd say it again.
1 second. So, if you can come at life from the idea that everyone in your life is serving a purpose, and you are also serving a purpose in everyone else's life, like it's a two-way street, right? It's not just everyone for you. Then when those paths start to deviate, they're no longer running in parallel, right? They start to deviate and go in for a different direction. There is no room for betrayal. It just doesn't exist.
Right.
Because you both got what you needed out of the relationship, so now you can move forward and move on. And that's like people ask me, like, how can you accept things so easily? That's how.
Yeah.
Because that's firmly rooted in my belief system that, like, okay, this is awesome, this is great, and now I need to move on to this. Now, it doesn't give you permission to be a complete jerk to everyone, right?
Right.
But it does mean, like, okay, like, this has served its purpose. Okay, so now it's on to the next thing.
Right.
And I appreciate you. And it doesn't mean, like, oh, well, you're an ass because, like, you dished me. No, not at all.
Right.
But, yeah.
There's a lot of, because, man, that happens so often to so many people, right? And because you use the word betrayal, and, you know, people have that feeling and you hold on to it for so long, right? Like you hold on to that for so fucking long and it just eats you alive and you don't realize like it's only eating you.
Yeah, well, the funny thing about it, man, it's crazy, right? Like when you start thinking about betrayal, like you really got to get into the details. So let's go down like the common path, like where people have betrayal, marriage.
Yeah.
Right? And let's say, okay, so they say, till death do us part. Mm-hmm. Now, for you might be thinking, okay, like when, I've got to remember this, old lady means your wife over here, right?
Yeah.
In Australia, it means your mum. So.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. So
okay. All right.
Yeah, that was another thing,
that makes more sense.
The first time I came to the US, I heard someone talking about banging his old lady. I'm like, what? You serious, man? It's like when I went
you guys are crazy over here.
When I went in the store and like I went into like this surf shop and I was like, hey, like where are the male thongs at? And this chick's looking at me like, excuse me? I'm like, you know, the thongs for guys.
Oh, like flip-flops?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because Australians call them thongs, right? And she must have had this idea and she goes, I don't think you belong in this store. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here?
No homo.
Yeah. So anyway, when you have like this process, right, and you're moving forward, there's how do we say? there's an understanding that needs to take place. And I'm trying to figure out how I can say this in the right way. Okay, so you've got this whole process that's going on, okay? And this betrayal's coming in, and you're getting married, okay? And you say, till death do us part. So for you, it might be the person actually dying. For your partner, it might be when there's a death of the romantic connection, that's like, you're dead to me. But did you actually go down into the depths and discuss what that was? Or did you think, so like the classic thing is this, right? If I say to you, okay, think of an apple. On count of three, we're going to say the type of apple that we're talking about, okay? 1, 2, 3. Granny
Red
Smith.
delicious.
You had a picture of a red apple, I had a picture of a green.
Yeah.
But if I start talking about an apple, just an apple, you're going to make your own picture in your head, even though it could be completely different to mine, but assume that you're thinking about the same thing.
Right.
And when you start talking about betrayal, that's exactly what's happened. Someone has gone, oh, you've got the exact same picture in your head that I've got in mine, so that's why it's okay.
Right.
But no one ever goes into the details of it, right? And so that's why, like, I'm like, well, does betrayal really exist? Like, you can cheat on someone and be a total douchebag, but is it really betrayal if, like, you had this whole different picture in your head to begin with, and I just assumed you had the same picture as me? I'm not saying it's not a dick move.
Right.
Right? I'm just saying, is it actually betrayal, or is the person still doing exactly what they thought they were going to do anyway?
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Clay, thank you.
You're very welcome
for being here. I appreciate you going an extra 30 minutes after we had to re-fucking start. Everybody that's watching this, what I want to leave you with is make sure to take the time to figure out who your people are, who's helping you and who's leading you down the path. What programs, what people are advising even, right? If that's the right word, in your life. And if you don't have those people, figure out who they are. And, you know, one thing else, I was talking to a guy the other day about this, and I think maybe we talked about it, but like when it comes to whether it's coaching or learning and growth and whatever it is, and you're doing it with another human, you know, some of us have mentors and friends that help us and all that kind of stuff and do it for free, right? Because they're friends. But when you're really intentional about this path that you're trying to go down, you have to appreciate other people's time. And there's something about, I don't believe, like, it's not that I don't believe in, I hate the term transactional relationships, right? Because on the surface, it has a negative connotation, right? But when you're working with somebody to achieve something and to achieve a goal, the only way to really fucking do that efficiently and effectively is to have a transactional relationship. Because you can say, I'm going to give you my baseball card for your fucking hour of time. Right. And so they can't be like, well, I'm kind of fucking busy right now. Like maybe next week. Well, I need this information right now. I need this help right now. Right. Well, I'm going to give you my baseball card, or I'm going to give you $10,000, or I'm going to give you whatever it is that is worth something to you to get back what is worth something to you.
Right.
And so people have to get off of this high horse of, I can do everything on my own. I'll do it for free. I'll ask a buddy. If you really want to grow and you really want to do something and change something, don't be afraid of having a transactional relationship with someone to be able to learn some of the things that you don't know. Because again, you don't know what you don't know. And there's a lot of fucking people out there that know the shit that you don't. Because I know that I think that I'm successful now because I make sure to surround myself with people that are smarter than me on certain things. Because I know there's a lot of shit that I'm not super fucking good at. And I can't run a business, I can't run an entity if I don't have those people that can fill those seats. And it's the same thing when you're working with somebody. You have to find somebody that has that skill set that you don't have. So take the time to do that. It doesn't have to be Clay, it doesn't have to be me, but it needs to be somebody. If you're on that journey and you're on that path, invest in yourself to become a better human. I'm going to go ahead and plug Zyn. Zyn, for all of your nicotine needs. They're delicious. Cinnamon, citrus, all the flavors. Paul said that coffee's good. I think he's fucking full of shit, but I'm going to try coffee. So Zyn, sponsor me. We don't have sponsors. I'm fucking poor and I pay for all this shit myself. So the cost of admission, share this shit. If you got value out of what you heard or what you saw today, please take the time and share it with your friends so that they can get the help that they need, and maybe they'll get some information that they didn't have prior to watching this show. So everybody, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. And remember, everybody, be authentic or get the fuck out.
Be authentic. Get the fuck out if you can't be authentic. Get the fuck out if you can't be authentic. Yeah.